Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished entrepreneur from the world of finance and fintech from Gurgaon, India, Mr. Inderjit Singh Makkar. Inderjit, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh, for having me here. I'm looking forward to the wonderful questions and conversations here.
Thank you. Inderjit is the founder of Factacy.ai, which is an AI as a service firm specializing in financial intelligence, market research, and ESG data analytics. So, Inderjit, before we come to Factacy, a few questions for you. You spent over 13 years at Standard & Poor's. What are the most formative years during that journey that shaped how you think about data, scale, and leadership?
From those 13 years, I call it like one third of my professional life.
Mm-hmm.
So I've all those foundational years helped me learn and evolve the art and the value of data.
Mm.
So if you have good data, the strategy follows, and if you have flaws in the supply chain of this data streams, the strategy will definitely go away, and you will not be happy with the results that follow.
Mm.
So from S&P, I think there was a solid discipline around how data has been harvested and streamlined. That really helped me in understanding the value and the value chain both.
Mm.
So that helped me in all my future decision related to entrepreneurship and the real underlying value of how data helps build up the successful companies. And mostly, I would have not, if I would have been like, this would have been my first startup, I would have fooled around and let go of a lot of value related
Mm.
insights. And I don't do that now. So
Mm.
that's really helped me. And obviously, professional growth and maturity that I
Absolutely.
gained from S&P that really helped me in my
Absolutely.
growth so far.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you obviously you've kept a lot of the value creation to yourself within Factacy because a lot of early entrepreneurs lose that valuation. But my next question, Indrajit, is moving from a global institution like S&P to building startups is a significant shift. What mindset changes were required to transition from enterprise leadership to entrepreneurial risk taking?
I mean, this question might take a lot of time to answer because it sums up the entire 20 years or 2 decades worth of my journey. But I'll start with once you join a big company or a big label, you are basically an executor. Like you know what needs to be done
Mm.
through your onboarding or your training documents, and you need to execute well to kind of grow yourself into that ladder chain
Yeah.
and the hierarchy. So once you reach to a top position or a somewhat in the top two or three designated positions in the company, you are basically looking at keeping the lights on, keeping the next strategy and enforcing that next strategy, making bell curves, hiring talent acquisitions, and maintaining individual P&Ls. So those become your day-to-day routine, and that's where I think intellectually you hit a glass ceiling
Mm.
where you don't grow much in terms of your skills. You grow very much into this area where you need to manage good people skills, anticipation, strategy, execution,
Mm.
but you don't innovate much in terms of new ideas and new skill sets. That was my calling, and that's where I put in my papers. Not saying that I was not happy. I was pretty happy. It was a
Yeah.
very well-paying job as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the early midlife crisis, it hit me very early in my late 30s.
Mm.
So I quit the job and I started a couple of businesses. One was interestingly around e-cigarettes, vapes. We imported and we distributed largely during 2018-19,
Mm.
and it got shut down by the government. And that's another
Yeah.
policy change I understood, and that made me even stronger. That okay, you can start from zero again, even after resigning from a good, well-paying job.
Mm. Mm.
And then we started Proxy and then Factacy. Proxy got featured in Shark Tank season one, and a lot of kind of firefighting had to happen because suddenly you got the spotlight on your startup, and the operations are not matched up to the scale that is followed by the Shark Tank episode. So
Mm.
we had to scramble a lot. We had to put our entire workforce that work for Factacy move into Proxy and get that startup built. Now that we know that. A couple of years before, just before Sam Altman launched the Gen AI bomb on the world,
Mm.
uh, we knew that there's enough operational synergies between these two startups. So Factacy focuses on AI, and Proggy is now into IoT plus AI. So there's a lot of synergies, and the experience that I got from Standard and Poor's, knew how to establish successions, I knew how to build up teams and talents which can take the entire brunt of the operations, and you can be free and you can strategize better rather than looking at day-to-day operations. But
Mm.
there's an anecdote to it. Even when you start from zero as a startup, not a single job is out of your job description as a
Correct.
founder.
Mm.
So if the housekeeping guys don't turn up, you might have to mop the floors to
Correct.
keep the operations running as well.
Mm.
And we did that a lot. I mean, not that we put that as in the limelight, but that's a part of being a founder at a startup.
Mm.
We started from a 2 BHK, and then there are offices now. We have staff to look after ourselves as well. So again, all those things were a pleasant surprise, not that we planned for, but the journey from a big cushioned, high paying job to an elementary startup where there are only a handful of people and everybody is wearing multiple hats. So that is the journey that really enriched me, and I'm better footed in terms of my confidence, my professional acumen, and the risks that I take as a startup founder
Mm.
as well.
Mm.
That really helps me
Absolutely.
gain confidence around it.
Yeah, what a great response. And as you were talking, I was remembering my own self after 17 years with ITC and then head of Asia for two large American aerospace companies. I started Guardian Pharmacy and I used to go and clean the floors myself, so of the stores. That's the challenge
There's
of
no,
every entrepreneur.
yeah, you love those experiences. Now
Correct.
when you look back, you really have fond memories around it. That this is what
Absolutely.
we were, and thankfully Godspeed, and God's been kind to both of us, and
Absolutely.
we have good memories to
Yeah, and you got much more to look forward to, I'm sure. But
absolutely.
Inderjit, let's come to your new baby, Factacy.ai. And my first question is, what problem statements led to the creation of Factacy AI, and where did you feel existing analytics solution were falling short?
So yeah, just turn back the clock in 1990 when the computers were first of all introduced in
Yeah.
Indian entrepreneurial ecosystem. Many people knew that computers existed, laptops existed, PCs existed, but very few people adopted them initially. And then you had these SaaS companies and service IT enabled services companies coming in and making you learn how to operate or kind of bring those technologies into your workforce and
Mm.
your operations and benefit from it. AI has a similar kind of revolutionary discipline around it. So once you got introduced to AI, it's okay. I mean, it's a chatbot. You just discuss to a GPT and you get answers. That's wonderful.
Mm.
That's wow. But that's the consumer side of it. But how are businesses using AI? I mean, you can't just have a prompt, just paste it for every business solution, and everything is the wonderful wow kind of a
Mm.
response there. But you need to kind of curate AI. You need to adopt AI. You need to customize, bespoke it a little, and look at the use case that you're trying to solve, and then use it in computer vision, machine learning, NLPs, and all those streams of AIs, and then adopt the right build and make it suitable for your needs as well.
Mm.
So that was the problem statement. We got these problems while I was there in Proggy as well. But not all the problems are IoT based. Some
Mm.
of the problems are purely AI and IT
True.
and Python based. So that's where we took a break and we split these into two different
Right.
streams.
Mm.
And the problem is, I mean, we're servicing companies like Nerolac, Maruti, CNC, Digitech, even startups like Zepcruit and other companies
Mm.
which came up with an idea. Okay, this is my idea. I've got some fundings for this idea. Let's build technology, but I want to technology to be ready for the next 20 years. So I
Mm.
don't want to just code and be a kind of a SQL or a database kind of a company. I want it to be an AI generated vision for
Mm.
my startup. So let's bring AI right from day zero. So
Right.
we've helped companies build their MVPs with and through AI.
Mm. Very interesting. But the other question that I had, Indrajit, was that the AI analytics space is very crowded. How do you at Factacy defensively differentiate yourself in the long term?
Yeah, I mean, the last phrase, long term, is something that I'm really betting on.
Correct.
Uh, all these the crowded space that we talked about. it's a good indicator that the market is really heavy. Market exists, and there's enough space for all of us to come and grow in
Mm,
this space. What differentiates is like, for example, one of our project which involved which took around 16 months to build.
mm,
And once you build it, that becomes the mode, that becomes the differentiator between the competitor of that product.
mm,
So in the long run, we already have a 5 or 6 quarter head start from the other competition. One
mm,
of our client is really happy with that. And that's where our differentiator as well, that okay, whatever we build in our AI as a service department builds cases and use cases for companies and startups,
mm,
which become their differentiators and their mode. And that's how we come in. It's not just we build a chatbot for you, or we build say a computer vision model which detects like PPE kits and whatever.
mm.
Everybody's doing that.
Yeah.
But what about once you detected it, what happens? I mean, are you alerting your supervisor? Are you alarming a buzzer onto the workspace? Even your SOPs, if your SOPs are not being followed and there's a risk or a hazard, are you stopping the cranes, the machines, or the supply, or are you cutting off
Mm,
anything? So that's the ecosystem we build around the use case. It's not just that one single thing that we're building.
yeah. Yeah.
So we're building a solution and making the workspace a little smarter, efficient. Industry 4.0 terms are also met. Even circular economy related projects are doing well. So that's the differentiation, and
Very
and the
interesting.
talent that we have is
Yeah.
irreplaceable.
Absolutely. And what distinguishes your approach to agentic AI from rule-based automation or conventional machine learning pipelines?
So gradually, from a chatbot arena, the word has to evolve to agentic for
Mm,
sure.
yeah.
And if anything was rule based, and just take simple examples like a WhatsApp messaging that you have with bigger companies like all the major like Chromas and Geo Smart. Earlier, you used to have a flow chart that you pick this and the response is this.
Mm,
It didn't feel personal, and it didn't feel very intuitive to your
mm,
need. It's
mm,
just a menu or a troubleshoot kind of a route. Now, cut to 2024, 25, 26. You are vague in your questions as well.
mm,
You don't know what you want, but you have a problem to,
mm.
to discuss. And the solution is intuitively given to you through those chatbots and thinking LLMs, cognitive LLMs. And they decide what is the response going to be. So that's a very small example anecdote. In a bigger scenario, uh, like you can now order your food through GPTs. Zomatos and Swiggies have
Mm.
taken MCP protocols, and they've
Yeah.
put like for example, if you're in your kitchen, you're talking to a virtual chatbot, and you say, I'm making this paneer, but can you give me the ingredients? And okay, the chatbot now talks to your fridge and looks at whatever ingredients are there, which of them are fresh, which of them are
Yeah.
not,
Mm,
what is missing, do you need to order it through Blinkit and other stuff
mm,
sources. So that is the interaction that you should have in your kitchen nowadays. That's just a small example of how automation can work. So
mm.
all these agents, the power of these agents should be in being invisible, that you don't feel that you're talking to an agent. You should always be looking at the response and the quality of your life getting improved, rather than what goes behind the scenes and how complex the agents are. So that's our flavor. That's our thing, that technology works best when it is not visible to you.
Very interesting. Great response. My next question is that the term analytics of things is gaining attention. How is IoT different from the traditional IoT analytics? And why is that strategically important now?
Yeah, IoT had been there forever, I would say. I mean,
Correct.
it's not a new term. It's just the individual devices becoming smarter and connected through internet.
Mm,
A connected device can be termed as an IoT in very layman terms. But what happens after that interaction? Like what happens after that connection? Uh, do that device becomes smarter, or is just like you can switch it on and switch it off? The idea of AOT is using the analytics or the data that comes through those devices and making sure the larger operations are disseminated through these devices.
mm,
A simple example is you know that okay, your car, when you approach the car doors should open, but how is it defining that it's you, not somebody else? So that's the AOT part of that
yeah.
IoT that
Yeah.
unlocks the car.
Yeah.
So it should have cameras which use face detection, probably a fingerprint sensor when you just touch the door, but even without touching it, it should know that it's you, not somebody else's or an imposter.
Mm,
Even when you walk into your home, depending on the day, depending on the season, depending on the time that you enter your home,
mm,
it should know by now that 2 to 3 years of history that, okay, Ashtosh, when he enters at this time, he prefers to switch off the fan or switch on the
mm,
light, or he's probably seated at this time during his dinner time. So let's not complicate stuff. Put all our devices in focus on that area,
mm,
and then make it pleasant for him, make it warm and cozy for him when he approaches this place. So that is the AOT part in
mm.
the consumer side. In
Oh,
the and the factory and the workspaces and the industry side is pretty sorted. They have their BRD sorted.
mm,
It's all about execution. But for a consumer, it's pretty complicated, and that's where AOT is the missing sauce. You
mm,
might have 10, 100 or 50 odd, 100 or 50 odd IoT devices, but what happens after that? So
mm.
that's the AOT part.
Thank you for explaining it to me. I was also wondering how what it is, but now you explained it so beautifully. Thank you.
My pleasure.
My next question is, how does Factacy integrate real-world data signals from IoT or operational systems into high-level financially and ESG insights?
Yeah, this goes back to our project with related to a circular economy, and uh, even there was another project around the SMEs, which were reporting into the top 250 publicly listed companies, where they had to report their carbon footprints and their wastage and the power usage, and how they're making sure the supply chains are also pretty
Mm,
uh, green in so to speak. So what happens now is there's a lot of movement around not the product, but how the product is sourced,
mm,
or from which channels is the product coming, product or services, both. So that's where these signals become in really helpful for us. For example, if you are procuring electricity
mm.
from, say, a northern state called Himachal,
Yeah,
or even a western state called Rajasthan, you might know that, okay, they have a lot of carbon-free energy generation projects, hydro and solar. But if you're putting it through, say, somewhere in the middle states of Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, they might have some coal plants running. So there's some signal coming in that, okay, your energy is sourced from this area, and that becomes a weightage, a weight that you add to that signal, that source that comes in.
mm,
Similarly, once you procure like simple things called Coke can, when you have aluminum being sourced, those are fresh aluminum. They will not be using recycled aluminum.
right.
But if you're looking at wire and other industries, and even certain locomotive industry, they don't need to go into fresh aluminum. They want to use recycled aluminum. So that industry weightage goes, the carbon footprint goes down. So it's not very easy to, I mean, it's just very simple to say what I've just said,
Yeah,
but it's not very easy to do it when you have like thousands of product lines and
correct.
hundreds of SKUs, and then they break into like millions of supply chains, routes, and everything stuff. So these signals have to be captured. These signals have to be like processed, more of a data science kind of a problem.
Mm,
They don't have anything to do with the AI and machine learning. It's purely and purely data and data science related issues that we need to solve, and the complexities and the articulation that happens is purely done business to business.
mm,
How efficient are you? How good are you in terms of monitoring your supply chains? That goes into the data problems that we solve.
mm.
If you had been doing mistakes in the past,
Yeah,
those mistakes will be amplified. If you've been doing good, those good and the merits will be amplified as well.
very
So
interesting.
that's where the signals get
Yeah,
consumed and amplified through our channels.
fantastic. Fabulous. And Inderjit, as regulations around AI and data governance evolve globally, how are you at Factacy preparing for compliance without slowing innovation?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one to answer, because
Okay,
the whole guidelines and frameworks around AI depends on who's writing the guidelines and frameworks.
correct,
So morality and ethics, both of us might have a different yardstick to say what is moral
correct,
and what is not, and depends on our life stages, depends on our maturity, depends on what our Maslow's law, where do we lie in that. So if it is about existence, morality takes a hit. If it is about maturity and legacy building stuff, then ethics and morality are very high.
correct.
So everything that you I mean, AI is just like a toddler. So who is your parent? Who's teaching morality to your toddler? Is
Mm.
it you? Is it somebody else? Is it a Western company, Western country, or is it a developing country, third world country? Who's defining the frameworks is really, really important in how you decide whether the AI is built in a right frameworked environment or not.
Yeah.
Having said that, policy and framework always is a step behind innovation. So AI will be wild horse for some times
Correct.
until the policy and framework follows, and the right set of morals and ethic codes are written for it.
Mm.
And we as individual startups are very, I would say, very small, but a very pivotal or very instrumental role to play here.
Mm.
I
Mm.
cannot set up morals and ethics around AI just because my scale is very low. But
Correct.
if we take data as a liability, we don't kind of grab data where we are not supposed to. We don't go and steal data, or wherever scraping is allowed, wherever it's out in the internet and there's no copyright laws around it. Definitely do that. I mean, that's
Mm.
meant to be
Yeah.
consumed.
Yeah.
If there are certain barriers and gatekeeping that prevents you to access some kind of data, respect that.
Mm.
That's one. And once you know that the AI that you built is consumed, or all the parameters is trained on all the parameters of the world, I cannot go out and demarcate certain parameters because the end GPT or the LLMs that we are using, the
Mm.
foundational LLMs,
Mm.
have already been trained. It's very hard to kind of untrain or be very selective on what parameters it should be trained on, what it should not be. Unless we get a project, or unless we get a big ticket project where people are ready to fund into ethical AI, we will definitely we have the sources and technology and the capabilities to
Yeah.
know how
Yeah.
to do that. But there's no need. Nobody's investing into that right now. That
Mm.
gives us a signal that it's all on your own. Like, you need to safeguard your own morality.
Yeah.
And I go back to your question, a few questions like you talked about the long run.
Mm.
So we're in it for a longer run. So we don't need to cut corners right now, even though it
Absolutely.
pains us in our cash flows and P&Ls. But when you look at the longer story, your ethics, your rules, how you deal with your customers' data, how you deal with your own AI logics, how you intend to consume data or supply chain of
Mm.
that data streams. How do you define whether that is good or bad? Do you go into the deep web and buy data? No, we don't do that. So
Mm.
a lot of those things are self-governing, and every founder who's capable enough to think about the long run will definitely not cut corners like this.
Great response. Thank you. I have time for two more questions for you. What
My pleasure.
capabilities must enterprises build today if they want to remain competitive in an AI first operating environment?
So, uh, I think let's not ignore AI. It's not going anywhere. It's not a bubble for sure. Even
Absolutely.
though the way NVIDIA, Microsoft, and ChatGPT, OpenAI have been looking at a circular investing economy, let's ignore that because
Mm.
that's how VCs normally play. It's something that you should not
Correct.
ignore. But I mean, you should not like downplay the effects and the benefits of AI because of that.
Mm.
So it's not a bubble. It's just like a computer. It's just like a technology that when you had invention of the wheel, the industrial revolution, and computers, and now AI. So just assume that it is going to be there. It has done its time testing. The use cases have already been solved.
Mm.
So assume that it's going to be there. If you are not doing it, your competitor has already assumed that it's going to be
Mm.
there.
Mm.
And if he benefits more than you, there's always a FOMO. And obviously, with this in mind, even the founders of today, even the VCs who've invested into these startups know that it's going to stay. So they would have an AI policy for sure. Even the publicly listed companies, you'll find a couple of slides what they're doing with AI.
Mm.
And the shareholders, even the retail shareholders who don't have that much of a industry knowledge or a business analyst kind of a mind,
Mm.
they would be pleased or at least satisfied that my company who have invested my life savings into are doing something with AI, they're not ignoring it. So
Mm.
that's one. I mean, you should not ignore and don't downplay this.
Yeah.
Second, if you've not ignored it and you've not downplayed it, don't go blindly into it and just look at, okay, I've done this GPT API integration, I'm done. So in that case, you will fail probably 1 or 2 or 3 quarters from down the line. But
Mm.
what will happen is then you'll be blaming, okay, this is not working for me, or AI is not working for me.
Yeah.
Assuming that you bought a very good flashy laptop, but you don't know how to work with it,
Mm.
your laptop is not going to do wonders unless you
Correct.
start keep typing in something for you.
Correct.
So AI. Don't ignore it, but once you start recognizing it, know what it can do for you. Don't assume that it has these features, so all of the features are relevant for me.
Hmm.
Understand what your use case is, what is the thing that you're going to solve, and try and build it according to you, rather than taking it out of the box and one size fits all doesn't work for you.
Hmm.
Especially when you're in enterprise, consumer
Well,
might just be okay with
well
it.
said. Well said. And my last question for you, Inderjit, what excites you the most about the future as you're building Factacy? Not just as a technologist or a technical leader, but as a business leader and an investor.
Yeah, I think I was very young when computers and laptops got introduced. 1990s were very young. I didn't have any decision-making powers as of today. And thankfully, by God's grace, we are in a position that we have some say, at least not in that scale, not that big scale, but at least some say in how the
Correct.
industry is assuming
Yeah.
and consuming this technology. In terms of talent, I'm pretty. I mean, I'm taking this call in my company, and I have my team sitting next to me. I openly praise them because it's up to them that they take up the challenge and devise a solution for it, rather than whatever they know and devise a problem or look for a problem to solve
Hmm.
with what they know. So we're in this era where technology is available, education is almost free.
Hmm.
Whatever is missing is being covered up with skills and attitude.
Hmm.
So skill you can build with technology and available education. Attitude is something that comes in from I'll not call Gen Z, but the young folks who are entering into this, who have seen their parents struggle, and they still want to make amends and kind
Yeah.
of improve the lifestyle. That hunger, that attitude will get you the right kind of skills and the attitude there,
Hmm.
because it is a level playing field today.
Correct.
I do not need to go to Harvard to know what AI does. I don't need to go to tier one colleges and pay around 50 lakhs for 2 years to understand what AI does.
Hmm.
I can do it within 2 weeks, within one
Correct.
week,
Correct.
sitting at my home with a laptop in front of me. That's
Yeah.
it. So
Absolutely.
that's something that excites me. That's something that is my North Star, that there's no gap. There is nothing, no excuse that, okay, I'm not that capable today, or probably can you ask someone else to do this because he has gone to some fancy college,
Hmm. Hmm.
technical college. He can let us know. I mean, there's nothing like that. I mean, just
Yeah.
open a chatbot and ask questions. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's available for free. So
Absolutely.
that's the era, and that is what excites me. And
Absolutely.
I always repent that had this been 10 years before, I would have done something else. But then, I mean, it is what it is, and let's learn to live with it and look for the future ahead.
Absolutely. And on that note, I just want to say, Indrajit, what a fascinating conversation this has been with you. I'm much,
My
much
pleasure.
older than you, but, I'm learning AI very, very quickly. I have my own digital twin, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But, you took us through Factacy. You took us through the importance of data. You took us through AI, some of the challenges. We spoke about AOT. We spoke about IoT. And you're so right that nobody can afford to ignore AI. But what is even more important that you said is that we have now been empowered to a level where anyone can take a little computer or even your own handphone and learn AI and fool around
Yeah.
with it. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for speaking to me. All the very best to
My pleasure.
Factacy and to you. Thank you again.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.